She sat in silence, watching the world move around her, but nothing truly touched her. She was known everywhere, admired by many, and envied by more. The billionaire mother had built an empire with intelligence and determination. She had power, control, and all the resources one could imagine. Yet when she looked at her daughter, a quiet child confined to a wheelchair, all that wealth felt painfully useless. Every doctor, every specialist, every therapy plan had been tried, tested, and paid for. Nothing worked. Her daughter still couldn't take a single step on her own. She smiled less, laughed even less. Her eyes were always distant. The mother hated herself for not being able to give her child what she needed most: independence. She often cried alone, far from the eyes of others. Her home was full of equipment and staff, but still hollow in the places that mattered. Her daughter's bedroom had the finest technology, but lacked the joy of a child's growth. She paid for the best therapists in the world, but her daughter made no progress. She never blamed the child, only herself. How could someone with everything feel so helpless? One day, after another disappointing session at the therapy center, she sat in her car, exhausted, defeated. As she stared through the tinted glass, she noticed a man helping her daughter outside. He wasn't a doctor. His clothes were dusty, hands rough with grease, and his face looked worn from hard work. He bent down beside her daughter, adjusted something on her walker, and gently encouraged her to stand. Her daughter tried. She wobbled, held the sides tightly, and lifted herself up for a moment, then sat down. But something was different. Her eyes were not empty. She looked alive for the first time in a long while. The mother watched. She didn't interrupt. She didn't call anyone. She just sat there frozen, trying to understand what she had just seen. For years, progress had been measured in reports and graphs, always showing no change. But now, a man with nothing, no training, no degree, had managed to give her daughter a moment of strength. It wasn't much, but it was more than she'd seen in months. The tears came before she could stop them. Not out of sadness, but from something deeper. Something raw. Her hands trembled as she covered her face. She had spent millions trying to fix what was broken, only to realize that maybe nothing was broken at all except her way of seeing the problem. Her daughter didn't need more machines. She needed belief, patience, presence, and a stranger had given her that without asking for anything. There were no contracts, no paperwork, no promises. Just a simple act of help, unnoticed by most but powerful beyond measure. She wiped her tears and kept watching. The man didn't look up or acknowledge her presence. He was focused entirely on her daughter. She stood again, this time a bit longer. The mother's breath caught. She had never seen that before. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't sudden. It was effort, built slowly, lovingly. It was a moment created through kindness. And it hurt, not because it was painful, but because it was pure. The kind of moment money can't buy. She cried quietly, letting the emotions move through her. Her image, her status, her name, they didn't matter in that moment. She wasn't a billionaire. She was just a mother. A mother who wanted her child to be okay. And now, for the first time in years, she believed that maybe her daughter would be. Not because of money, but because someone still cared without needing a reason. That's when she truly broke down, not in despair, but in hope. He wasn't supposed to be there for anything more than a quick repair. The center's old delivery van had broken down again, and he was called in to fix it. The poor mechanic arrived with his usual tools, worn clothes, and a quiet attitude. He kept to himself, working under the hot sun, tightening bolts, checking wires. But during a break, he noticed the little girl sitting nearby in a wheelchair, quietly observing the world, saying nothing. Something about her expression stayed with him, tired eyes and a young face, like she'd given up long ago. He had seen that look before in people who'd lost more than just physical strength. Over the next few days, he kept returning to complete the job. Each time, he saw her again, sitting alone while her wealthy mother spoke with specialists inside. One afternoon, he walked over. He didn't say much, just asked if she wanted to try standing. She hesitated, unsure, but nodded. He bent down, offered his hands, and helped her rise. It wasn't perfect, and it didn't last long, but it was something. For the first time, she stood on her feet with someone's full attention and encouragement. After that, he couldn't ignore it. He went home and built a small wooden support frame using scraps from his garage. It wasn't fancy, but it was stable and light. He returned with it the next day and showed her how to hold on to it. Every evening, he showed up not as a therapist, not as a doctor, just as someone who believed she could do more than sit and watch life go by. He didn't talk about healing. He didn't explain muscles or science. He simply helped her stand, take a step, rest, and try again. She began smiling. She began trusting him. Slowly, she learned how to shift her weight, balance herself, and take 2 steps in a row. He celebrated those tiny victories with quiet claps and warm encouragement. She laughed more. She asked him to stay longer. She wanted to try again and again. The pain and fear in her eyes started to fade. Her confidence grew, even if her legs were still weak. He never pushed too hard. He never promised success. But he was consistent, and that made all the difference. One day, after several weeks of effort, she walked across the small yard without falling. He stood behind her, not touching, just watching, ready to help if needed. She made it across. Her mother stood nearby, stunned. Tears ran down her face, but he looked away, uncomfortable with the attention. He wasn't doing it for her. He did it for the child who wanted to move. And for himself, because he knew what it felt like to have no one believe in you. He never accepted payment. He refused every offer. He said he was just doing what anyone should do. He returned to fixing cars, back to his quiet life. But something had changed. The girl kept walking. The world noticed. People praised the mother for the miracle, but she knew the truth. It wasn't her money. It wasn't the doctors. It was a poor mechanic with nothing to gain who gave her daughter the belief to stand. He never asked for credit. His name was forgotten in news stories. But in one girl's life, he became unforgettable. He didn't heal her with medicine. He helped her believe, and sometimes that's all someone needs. A little belief, a little time, and someone who sees what others overlook. That's what helped her take her first real steps.